Today I'm just really doing a test because I've recently upgraded. I've upgraded to a 16-inch M1 MacBook Pro, the M1 Max, with a, what is it, 24 core chip, something to that effect. Anyway, so I've been in the process of moving my system over to this new Mac, and I thought, well, I better start installing VSTs, and I can kind of get back to that workflow. And while doing that, I decided, why don't I show some Explorer controlling VST stuff? Now, I found certain things working really well with the M1 MacBook Pro, and certain things not working well at all. Um, it has not been all sunshine. If this entire stream crashes, you'll know why. I've had, I want to say, 3 or 4 crashes just today alone. Complete system crashes to a purple screen, and then it reboots, and then everything comes right back up. I suspect that that may have something to do with the Thunderbolt hub situation that I'm running. So a little bit about the audio interface setup is so the audio interface that I'm using right now, I use a Motu 828ES, and I have a 16A through AVB into that, and I have an AudioFuse 8 pre over ADAT into that. All of this goes to the M1 Max MacBook Pro via Thunderbolt, but, and I know everybody's going to scream and shout about this, but it's just how it is right now until my new Thunderbolt hub gets here. I'm going Thunderbolt out of the 828 into a Belkin Thunderbolt hub, which I used no problem at all with my 2012 Retina MacBook Pro. So that is running into, the Belkin, and then from the Belkin, it goes to a Thunderbolt 2 to Thunderbolt 3 adapter. Now, that adapter could likely be the problem. Running from one hub into that adapter, that could all be the problem. But as I said before, uh, this was all no problem at all on my 2012 Retina MacBook Pro. Like that all just ran perfectly, no problem at all. So literally the cables haven't changed. I just had to, put a Thunderbolt 2 to Thunderbolt 3 adapter on there. That was the only difference in how I was setting things up. Also, in addition to that, I used to run a USB 3.0 hub into my Retina MacBook Pro. For whatever reason, the USB 3.0 Type A to Type C connector, when I would connect that and then connect it to the new MacBook, it would not work at all. Wouldn't see any of my drives, just would not work. Oddly enough, what I ended up having to do was take a USB-C hub and run my other hub into that USB-C hub, and then everything would show up fine. But if I just went straight into it, it wouldn't work. So that's been a lot of my woes with the M1 MacBook Pro. So hi to people in the chat, Inverted Popes, Native VS. I'm happy to have you guys here, and I'm gonna kind of get to the Hydrosynth aspect of it. But I just figured I'd let people know, yeah, the M1 MacBook Pro situation has not been just all roses. it's had its issues, and then once I get this new, I just ordered the OWC Thunderbolt hub. Their new one with, I want to say it's 11 ports on it. So once that gets here, hopefully things will get better and I won't be having these crashes. But crashing all the way to completely rebooting the system multiple times a day has not been my idea of fun. Now, I want to go ahead and pull this up. Let's do this. So right here I have, I'm running this standalone right now. I'm using Arturia 8V, and I just thought I would show some kind of interesting things. So I have the Explorer, and I have the 8V here. One of the really nice aspects of the 8V, let me see if I can do it this way, is when you grab my my window here, when you open this up here and you go to MIDI, you can set all your parameters to learn, right? Well, on the Hydrosynth, what's really nice about the Hydrosynth is that pretty much everything on here will send CC or NRPN. That allows you to basically use the UI of the Hydrosynth for your Jupiter 8 or whatever plugin you're using, and it'll all just work. So if I press envelope 2, for instance, right, and then I have decay on this first knob here, technically the second knob, but you know, you get what I'm saying. It's right there, envelope 2, decay. If I go to envelope 1, decay, it's right there. I'm not doing any macro mapping or anything right now. You can do that if there's things in your plugin that are not in, you know, your traditional layout here. The macros are absolutely great for that. Or sometimes you will run across certain things in the Hydrosynth that do not send CC because there's only, what is it, 128 CCs total. So the synth has more parameters than that, so they ran out, right? Which is why NRPN is good. But for instance, if I go to amp level, right, I would want to have mapped to VCA level here, but that does not send a MIDI CC on the Hydrosynth. So if you want, you can just set up a macro and call it amp level, and you'd be good to go. So I could, for instance, let's do that now. Let's go ahead and adjust my screen a bit here. I'm going to see if I can make it a little bit easier for you to see what I'm doing. There we go. So what I'm doing is on the Explorer, it's just like the full-size Hydrosynth. All you have to do is hit macro assign, and then you can select the macro that you want. I want macro 4, and I'm going to press assign, and then I'm just going to turn this knob until I see the MIDI CC that I want. And I'm arbitrarily selecting a MIDI CC right now. I'm doing 33. I don't know what else that might map to, but hey, that's what I'm doing. And I'll turn that depth to 128. And then I'm just going to scroll down until I get to the name. And let's scroll here. I'm doing a list name here. And there it is, level. So I hit exit. Now I have level here. So let me bring this back. And what I'm going to do is hit learn, and then I'm going to select VCA level, and now I'm just going to turn that macro, and I'm good to go. So now that macro is controlling level of my VCA. Super easy to do this kind of stuff. You know, the filter knobs, even the dedicated filter knobs, already are mapped correctly to your filter. So you can use that stuff as well. Let me just double check something real quick, because I was just screwing around with it beforehand. Let me just double check that. Yeah, we're good. And then resonance is here, right? Let's say for the slope, I'm going to use the drive knob for the slope. So that just kind of lets us do our thing there. Modulation amount, I can press the filter button, and if I go down here to LFO amount, so where am I at? Oh, here we go. Mod. This is going to be envelope amount right there. So yeah, pretty easy to do this stuff. We'll turn this off, and so now, of course, I've kind of completely destroyed this patch, but so now, regardless of the patch, everything will control correctly. Let's go ahead and do this. And we can easily play with the filter. And of course, being a VST and controlled over CC, it's going to be slightly more steppy than, say, like the Hydrosynth would be on its own. Especially if you move fast. But yeah, really nice. Filter here. Let's go ahead and give it some envelope amount. We'll adjust this up a little bit so I can. And of course, you can send, you know, your polyphonic aftertouch and all that will still work in here as well. Question in here is, do you know if Spectrasonics has created any kind of integration with the Hydrosynth? I do not know. I heard from them early on that there was some plans to do that, but I don't have any inside information on that. I don't know when they would do this. Hopefully, it's something that they'll be doing. And then, yeah, that would be very cool. So I'm hoping that that happens in the near future. I need to upgrade my own copy of Omnisphere. I'm actually a little while behind on that. So, so I'm seeing, so is the Hydrosynth, here, let me show this up here. So is the Hydrosynth slow at transmitting MIDI CCs, the driver interface assigning it low priority, or, no, no, it's not really an issue. It's just the fact that when you have MIDI CCs, you only have 128 values. When you're doing NRPN, for instance, you know, you've got thousands. So it's just a difference in resolution there. But like you can, but if I have, you know, resonance really high, you're going to hear that. So you can hear like the 128 steps. That's, you know, that's any MIDI controller really, unless you're doing something like 14-bit control, or, you know, something like that. Or, like I said, set it to NRPN and you're good to go on that as well. What's another nice thing that we can do here? So let me, oh, you know what? How about this? Let me see if I can pull this up real quick. I'm going to stop screen sharing for a second. And I'm going to bring up, let's try, if I can spell it right. Maybe not. And yeah, they, you know, the Omnisphere stuff, they've got a whole list of stuff that they support already on their site. So definitely look at that if you're trying to figure out if your synthesizer works for it or not. Just set this up real quick and set my latency level up. Okay. And you might hear my dogs barking. That's because they don't stop doing that ever. Ever since we got the new puppy, she's been a big fan of barking nonstop. And, you know, that's okay. All right, here we go. And yeah, as far as the Prophet, yeah, I actually have right next to me, I've got the Prophet 5, and yeah, you can hear the stepping in that. So yeah, you can hear the stepping in that as well. You know, it's just a part of using that sort of MIDI protocol, and yeah. So let's share this screen for a second here. And again, I'm not particularly using the Arturia stuff only here, but I just like the fact that Arturia provides standalone, and I don't feel like being inside of the DAW. I don't want to have like Ableton Live opened up while I'm doing this when I can avoid it. So, you know, it's fine. But yeah, and I will say another issue that I've been having with the another issue that I had with the M1 Max MacBook Pro is I have rolling cloud, and you cannot run the Jupyter 8 on rolling cloud with this laptop. It for some reason it'll only run it on one core, and it completely pegs it, and it just goes garbled, and no latency setting is going to fix it. It just completely destroys it. So hopefully they have it listed as M1 compatible, but let me tell you, that plugin does not work. So hopefully they get that stuff sorted, and you know, then we can move on from there. But yeah, let's pull this back up here. So what I wanted to show is let me get my interface here so I can actually see what. Let me grab a nice preset for this, and we'll do here, and pull up the screen. So mods, there we are. So let me make it so that you actually see the full screen. There you go. Roland being Rolandy, yeah, exactly. No, it's fine. I mean, it's a new platform, new OS, all that stuff, new chips. You know, it's kind of expected for certain things to not work, but they list it as compatible, but how compatible, who knows. So what I just did is I just added to this preset aftertouch here, right? FM amount down here, and then all I have to do is if I raise this up a bit, so if I push this all the way up, and I'm going to make the screen so you can see both here for a second, okay? Just so you can see how, like, you can be very gentle. And I have this Keybed right now. Technically, I still have to calibrate this one. This is a prototype. But yeah, I have it set to hard so that it's, you know, it takes a little bit more force to engage it, and you can kind of play with that stuff and play with your settings to get them however you like them. So right now I'm setting the aftertouch in here to 225, 0.225, I should say. So that all works nicely. And of course we can go here. Let's go to the engine, and let's see. Actually, let's come back here. Now, if you want to map this stuff up, you can do the same thing here. You know, I could do my amp envelope offset. I can select this one and then just play with the attack knob on the Hydrosynth. Decay. There's the decay knob. Release. Right there. And turn this off. Now, my envelope 2, attack. Works perfectly. So very fun to just kind of map stuff around and do that sort of thing. Directly below the Explorer, underneath the table here, you'll see I have my typing keyboard, but I also have my Hydrosynth Deluxe underneath it here. So I can play it from here as well. And what I want to show you about that, oh, sorry for knocking the mic. The response is really not that different. You've got about an 1/8 inch throw less at most on the Explorer. But the polyphonic aftertouch is really the same. Once you press down the key and it hits bottom, then you have your aftertouch throw, right? And that throw is really pretty much the same on both the Explorer and the the Deluxe and the Hydrosynth 49 key. Now you won't have that ribbon. Or that crazy range. But, as far as a MIDI controller, I mean, this thing works really, really well. And you do have these little touch strips here. Let's make this visible. So, just little capacitive strips there. And right now I have local off, but I have TX on, so I can still use the ARP. And here's Shift Edit. Now I can go in here and kind of play with this stuff. So you still have access to all your ARP functions and all that good stuff as well. Really fun. So if you guys have any questions about using the Explorer, which is apparently now shipping, you're starting to see some distributors are starting to get them in. I know that shipping delays, and depending on what territory you're in, it's been really kind of a crapshoot as far as who's going to get them first and that sort of thing. But yeah, they're on the boat, and people should start getting their pre-orders soon enough. So if you got questions, join the ASM Facebook group, the ASM Hydrosynth Facebook group, and I will help you out as best I can. So, peace.